film the meeting for viewers on Teams and also record the meeting. Therefore, any members of the public present should be aware that they may be recorded even if they are not participating in the meeting. If this causes you any concern, then please let me know, sort of now, really. Please can members who have brought their own device with them should ensure that their cameras are switched off, and very importantly, their device, a microphone and speakers are muted for the duration of the meeting. Public speakers contributing to the meeting virtually should switch their cameras off and put their microphones on mute. And I've lost it again in a minute. No, until they are invited to speak by the chair. It is not permitted for any other member of the public viewing by Teams to contribute to the meeting at any time. Should any members of the planning committee wish to speak, please simply raise your hand and catch the attention of myself or Vice Chair Edric or the lead officers Simon or Tessa. I don't think Tessa's with us today, is she? No. When anyone physically present in the room is speaking, please remember to switch on your desk microphone so that all those in attendance and viewing can hear you. Please do not use the chat function within Teams for anything. All contributions must be made verbally. And please can all mobile phones be set silent. I think that's a good thing to do. Thank you. I'm just going to hand over for a couple of minutes to Julie over there, who wishes to say something.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Julie Reader-Sullivan. I'm the Assistant Director, Somerset Council East. And just a little announcement. Firstly, this will allow everybody to get to where they need to be. As you'll know, we've just become a unitary council, and in that process have a new constitution and new processes for planning. In order to see how those processes are working in reality, we are asking for some feedback. So there's two things. One, members of the committee will have a questionnaire in front of them. If they can complete it before they leave today, and I will try and stand at the door. I know you got them last time by email from me. I'd just like to try this. We'll then look at making the whole thing electronic and online. For members of the public who are here, agents, applicants, I have questionnaires here. If you're with a group, maybe if you can complete one as part of the group rather than one each. But they are here with some spare pens. I will put them by the public speaking desk, and you'll see there's a basket there that you can just put the responses in on the table. I think I left it there. No, it's moved. I did leave it there. I'll find it, so that you can just put the responses in. So it's really an opportunity for us to get some feedback. There is a GDPR statement on the one that you'll be completing as well, so that you're clear how we will use that data. And thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I'm sure everybody took notice of that. Okay, we'll move on. Next, we go to apologies for absence, please, Helen.
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Height, and Councillor Philip Ham is substituting, and also Councillor Adam Boyden is unable to attend today. No substitute for Councillor Boyden.
Thank you very much, Helen, for that. Next, we move on to the minutes of the last meeting that was held. So we'll go through them page by page, and here we go. Right. Page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, Page 18, that's it. Page 19. Okay, thank you. Right.
Proposer and seconder, please, Chair.
Yep. Can we have a proposer and a seconder, please? Edric's proposing. Martin is seconding. Thank you.
All those in favour? Yeah. All those in favour of...
Oh, yeah, of course we've got to vote, haven't we? Yeah. All those in favour? Thank you. Right, next we move on to any declarations of interest. Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Still new to this, as you can tell. I think I should declare an interest in item number 9 on the agenda, 10 Lumond Avenue in Wells. The family are personal friends and have been for a long time.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Chair, can I just clarify, Councillor Robbins, for that item, you'll be leaving the room for that item. Thank you.
I was about to add that maybe all the Liberal Democrat group, as they are parents of Theo, that maybe all the Liberal Democrats should declare an interest by association through Theo.
I think that's probably a very good idea, so I'll declare an interest as well on that one.
As Aussie.
Yeah.
As will I, maybe the rest of the group should.
Should declare. Claire, Martin.
Sorry, can you clarify that? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I will declare it, but I'm not understanding.
Shall I'll clarify it?
Then you do it. Or...
Yeah, and then Martin. Basically, if you're a friend of, it's Theo's parents, Theo Football, its parents will know who they are and will probably be friends in one way or another. So it's probably best if we don't take part in the in that particular one. But Martin will clarify.
Yes, Chair. It's a question for each member individually that if, because of the association with another elected councillor on that particular application, whether they feel they have a personal interest or indeed a personal and prejudicial interest in them because they know the applicants or are close associates with the applicants. If you feel that you are, then you should declare the interest now. And if it's a prejudicial interest, then, as the chairman said, it's the guidance is that you should leave the meeting for that item. If it's just a personal interest and not a prejudicial interest, then you should still declare it, but you can remain in the chamber and take part in the debate and vote. So it's for each individual member who knows the councillor in question, but more particularly the applicants who understand his parents. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that basis, I would declare a personal but non-prejudicial interest in stay and vote.
Can we just go around the room then, so I got everybody's declarations correctly recorded? So we'll go round from Edric then. So yours is a...
I would declare a personal but non-prejudicial
personal
and vote.
Thank you. Who's the next?
Okay, I'll go next. I'll declare a personal, but I'll stay, not as non-prejudicial, and I'll vote.
Yep. No, it's mainly the Liberal Democrats, I believe. Okay, all right. Okay. Well, she can if she wants to. Helen, would you like to?
Martin, I think you need to.
Personal non-prejudicial, Chair.
Yeah. No. Okay. Claire.
Yes, I'm going to have to follow, but I've only known Theo a year, and it's only through the council business. And I wouldn't say he was a friend, but a colleague. But if it's advised that it's a personal.
Non-prejudicial.
I've never met his parents, and I think
Sure.
Alex Coach just walked in, so he
I
had
would be in the same.
the same position.
So
Yeah,
So we're not friends with Theo. Don't tell him that. We like him. We like him. Oh, is he on there? Is he?
through you, Chair, from what you're saying, Councillor, I think to me that sounds like just a personal interest and a non-prejudicial interest. So could I just clarify the application that we're talking about? So for the members of the public, which application this is, Simon? Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Helen, quickly, if you want to say something.
I'm just wondering, with regard to the first item on the agenda, about the haulage company, they are mostly moving quarry stone, and I'm just wondering if there is if some people here need to declare a personal non-prejudicial interest because they're on the quarry advisory group or they have any dealings with quarries. I'm just wondering if that's something that needs to be declared or not.
I'm not entirely sure what that group does, but again, it's down to individual members as to whether they feel they perhaps not have an interest, nor particularly whether they're predetermined in the application by being involved in those issues. Again, it's a matter for each member who might be on that group to determine.
So again, we'll leave that up to the discretion of the people who sit on that particular group, which I think there may be a couple of us here who do, not me, but so I won't worry, that's up to you. Thank you. Computer is stopped, but that's okay, I can do it from paper. Right, Dennis Director, public question time. Okay.
There was none, Chair.
No, there are none of those, are there? No, no. So there's nothing on the public question time. And schedule of applications. Oh yes, okay. Right, I've just got to get the computer working.
So the schedule's just for noting, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, but my computer is having.
You need some IT help. We have an IT in the room.
We've got an IT man here, haven't we?
Nixie's gone off, mine's updated.
Maybe.
So I can't help him either.
Possibly. Just have a quick look. It might just be that it's out of power or something. Because even though it's been on charging all night, we had 97% just now. You got it. Yeah. We're back. Okay, so we're going to get into the real business of the meeting, which I believed at first we have DMO 1, isn't it? Let's just find it on here. Okay. Right, okay, so the officer is Anna, so I believe. So Anna, would you like to present DMO 1?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so this application is for the change of use of agricultural land to a haulage depot, which is a sui generis use, and the construction of an HGV workshop, associated yards, depot, infrastructure and access. And it's a field that's on land to the south of the Nunney Catch roundabout. So here's the location plan, as you can see. As I said, it's the south of the Nunney Catch roundabout. There are some commercial and residential properties northeast here. Around the Nunney Catch roundabout, there are other commercial properties as well. And this site here on the opposite side of the road is allocated in local plan part 2 for employment uses, specifically distribution uses. Again, there's an aerial photo that puts the site in context. As I said, you can see those commercial and residential uses in here. The garage and the car wash, the transport depot around there, and then again the employment site on the opposite side of the road that's been allocated but not developed out as yet, and then another farm here. So here's the proposed site plan. So you've got the main workshop and offices here and a lorry.
Okay, everyone, it looks like the issue has been sorted, so I'm sure that Anna will be happy to start again.
I'll try.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I just see that something's moved on my slide, so just ignore this row. This purple line along here is the acoustic fence that's being proposed. I'm not sure why my arrows moved there. So there's a proposed 3-metre high acoustic fence along that line. There's proposed green buffer margin in here, the existing trees. As I was saying before, the workshop and offices in this building here, and a lorry wash in this area. Obviously, you can see the parking and the SUDS arrangement and the new access in there as well onto the A359. And then we've got the proposed elevation plans for the workshop and office building, with the top left image facing into the site and the northeast elevation facing towards the residential and commercial properties to the northeast. And then here's the floor plans and site sections. So again, you can see the bottom image is looking, well, let me just take you back, sorry. So section A that you've got there is looking across the site in that direction. And then we've got section B, which is actually this orange line here, which I should take you back to the sections. You've got that section B there, which shows you the acoustic fence in relationship to the adjoining property. Again, we've got a proposed planting plan that gives a bit more detail in terms of the planting that was proposed. And here's some site photos. So this is a view when you're leaving from Bruton towards the Nunneycatch roundabout, with the site on your right, with the existing field gates there. This is the view from the Nunneycatch roundabout looking towards Bruton and the site. And you can see the adjoining property there as well. And that's the end of my presentation. So in accordance with the agenda, the recommendation is for approval subject to conditions.
Okay, thank you, Anna. We now move on to public speakers. And I believe the first one is Elizabeth Bullis.
Right, in the summer of 1988, I moved to Waterloo Farm, Holwell, opposite a working quarry and adjacent to a working sawmill, neither of which did nighttime working. Then Don Chubb Transport ran his haulage business on land next to the sawmills. My life changed for my family dramatically. Lorries rumbling past the house in the early hours, shaking the windows and waking myself and my children. Then some returning late at night, waking the young children once again. The dust they churned up increased my cleaning regime and wasn't good for the children. There was also noise from where they were washing their vehicles down and trailers down at night ready for the next day. Then there is more noise when the drivers leave the yard in their cars. What I don't understand is why you're considering passing planning on a greenfield site full of wildlife and nature when there are alternative brownfield sites offering the potential for a haulage yard. When at Commerce Park, as I hear they're expanding this site on the outskirts of Frome with easy access to the bypass and away from residential homes. Also, the Leighton site, just up the road from Nunney, with safer access than this proposed site so close to the roundabout. Also, why does the plan show the workings at the top of the field, right by the houses, blocking out the gentleman in the bungalow's light, as opposed to being at the bottom of the field where it wouldn't cause so much noise? Our new King Charles is promoting planting up and saving green areas, and here you are destroying another valuable green space along with hedgerows. The bats will disappear due to the light pollution at night. I have walked my dogs here in the past and I've seen deers, rabbits and foxes. Aren't we supposed to be doing all we can to save the planet? I am a farmer's daughter, and if World War III does happen, we will need all the farming land available to feed ourselves. And the plans do not show all the new houses that have been built, and there is no other industrial site next to residential houses. So much is at stake here, and that is why I'm objecting to this planning application along with the parish council, and I really hope this committee will agree to do the same and stop this travesty.
Lovely, thank you very much. And within your 3 minutes, so that's good. So next, can we have, I think it's Nick Hayes, please.
Yeah, my name's Nick Hayes. I live in the property adjacent to an application. There's a few, well, many areas that I feel that this is wrong in all senses. Now, usually if a project of this size would probably, or should, in theory, I think have a consultation process. There's been no consultation process with the applicant at all, although we've tried to contact them to get a meeting together. I don't feel that everybody's been considered as well. With the map that was up there, there's a housing estate opposite the roundabout who's also going to be affected by this, and they probably know nothing about this at all. I feel that the whole area or bigger area should have been considered within the application. Living next door to potentially what could be, a life-changing site for me and my young family. I'm sure, it's going to devastate us, basically. I've got other grounds. I mean, greenbelt land shouldn't be built on for this purpose. The destruction of, wildlife and its habitat is wrong in all senses. Also, just around the local area, there's hard-working families. Now, they've been working hard all their lives to get what they've got. But having spoken, and we had an estate agent come out, it's going to devalue their properties by at least 10 to 20%. Now, for somebody who's worked hard all their lives, why should they be penalised just because somebody wants to take a chance on getting an application or, industrial unit next to residential properties, which is going to, financially have an effect on their lives as well? Now, personally, I've got a young family. I've got 4 young children now. Now, what this lorry park's going to bring is like noise pollution. This pollution is going to effectively wake them up at night, because it's a 24-hour operation that you're going to agree to if you do today. Which is wrong next to a residential property. It's going to affect their mental health, their well-being, and potentially their health as well. I'm not the fittest person. I suffer with asthma. I moved to the country to try and help me with this because I had problems living in London. I feel that all the prevailing winds, or the majority of the prevailing winds, come from that direction. So any noise, and whatever fence you put up, it's not going to stop the noise. It's not going to stop the dust. It's not going to stop the chemical overspill potentially from a wash yard, which is right next to my children's play area. I mean,
Thank you. Could you sort of wind up now? Your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, I could go on forever.
Yeah, we
And I
don't
wish,
need
I
to.
wish I could, but
You got your 3 minutes.
I'll leave you with one thing. All of you here own your own properties, potentially. I'm not sure. My question to you, or my point to you is, how would you feel if this was going to be put next to you and have an effect on all of your lives? And would you say yes to it then? So it'd be interesting to see the result of this, because if you do, it'll be a travesty. And that's my closing point on that, all right?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And next we go to Mark Reynolds.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm Mark Reynolds, a Chartered Town Planner, and I'm here speaking on behalf of a group of local residents who live adjoining the site to the northeast of which you've just heard from Mr. Hayes. Mr. Hayes, as he said, lives in a static home positioned at the border with the site. The impact from noise and disturbance of introducing HGV haulage yards, workshops, lorry washes, up to 20 lorries, 26 car parking spaces, external lighting cannot be understated. The property has its primary outlook across the field. This will be developed. The introduction of a 3-metre high acoustic fence within 5 metres of their main habitable room windows would be overbearing and reduce light into the home, further harming their amenities. The applicant, as you've heard, requires 24-hour operation at the site. Their own data shows up to 30 lorry movements may take place before 6 a.m. The workshop can be used to maintain the fleet, providing the doors and windows are closed 24/7. That's the condition put to you. The whole yard will be lit up to facilitate the use. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes' fears are well founded. The planning system zones uses. HGV haulage yards are not compatible with residential uses. Local plan policies DP7 and DP8 provide valid and strong grounds to refuse this application. The principle of developing an HGV yard here also finds no support in local planning policy. Council has allocated a site adjacent to Nunney Catch, large enough to accommodate this development. There are over 7 hectares of industrial land to come forward at the Commerce Park in Frome. The applicants themselves highlight available employment sites slightly further afield, which could equally be developed if the applicant considers they need to move from their current base. The applicant's alternative site search has been drawn unreasonably tightly around the quarries and has in large part been carried out retrospectively following submission of this planning application, and discounts valid sites without good reasons. If approved in the open countryside, this development would drive a coach and horses through the plan-led system for growth in this area, which the local plan inspector considered appropriate as a strategy to meet the needs for employment space through the Mendip Local Plan Part 2 allocations, and that's to serve till 2029. Furthermore, policy CP1 is clear that development in the open countryside like this will be strictly controlled. CP4, in relation to rural areas, guides that new premises will principally be delivered in the primary villages or as conversions. Otherwise, business proposals need to be in a manner and of a scale that is appropriate to the location. The buildings would harmfully urbanise a large part of the field, introducing large buildings, areas of hard standing, fencing, lighting, all operating at timed 24-hour basis. The development would also therefore be in clear conflict with policies DP1, DP4 and DP7, which all require the protection of the rural character. And again, this also justifies a further reason for refusal in my professional view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. Next, we move on to Mr. Raymond Cooper, please.
As someone who has lived and worked on farms, I must protest about productive agricultural land being lost to industrial usage, which more properly belongs on non-productive land, of which there is enough in the Nunney Catch area, albeit at 3 times the cost of agricultural land. The agricultural land in question has successfully produced food for years: maize, grazing for cattle, and grass for hay and silage. If the application for industrial use is approved, it will now produce constant noise and fumes to the annoyance of people who live directly downwind of the proposed site. The prevailing wind is, as you know, from the southwest. The barrier, the acoustic fence, isn't going to make much difference to that. The sound of slamming doors, vehicles reversing, power washing, vehicle repairs, etc., not to mention the light pollution in our currently dark night skies. Now, the person nearest the field is asthmatic. He's a father of 4 young children, the youngest born today. He is the breadwinner. He's self-employed. He can't afford to take time off. I'm worried that allowing the application will set a precedent and unleash a flood of similar applications leading to the industrialization of the area around Lunny Catch roundabout within Greenbelt land. This is particularly due to the fact that agricultural land is only 1/3 of the price of land set aside for industrial usage. Please consider the implications of this and also the needs of those who have lived quietly there for 4 generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you're good on time as well, Mr. Cooper. Thank you. And next, can we move along to Mr. Jordan Rees, please, in support, I believe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Rees. I'm Operation Manager at Wiltshire Transport Training. We've worked with the Charltons for over 10 years now, and we supply them with training to keep them compliant. And recently have spent a lot of time building a new specific apprenticeship scheme for them. For transport companies, they need a lot of space for parking vehicles and a little bit of office, warehouse, workshop space, as well as a secure site to minimise criminal activities such as fuel theft. Any land that is pre-built now has a warehouse pretty much the same size of the land with a handful of car parking spaces, because that is what can be rented and sold for the most amount of money, which makes sense for the property investors, but doesn't help transport companies like Charlton's, which only leaves the option for building something of their own. Having talked to Jake pretty much throughout the whole process of this, I know how hard and tirelessly the family have worked to make sure that no stone is left unturned, to make sure that the site is exactly what they need, but also to make sure it is best as it can be for the area and the residents of the area. The site is very well screened from the roadside, and with the green buffer area almost completely hidden, as you've seen in the pictures earlier. It's also not an isolated site. The location has quite a high traffic volume of HGV vehicles already, and is surrounded by numerous local hauliers and quarry sites, and obviously Nunny Catch services as well. The nice thing for me from a resident's point of view is that the Charlton's vehicles will mostly be out in the morning and back early enough to avoid causing extra traffic at peak times and things like that. It's not like a distribution centre where trucks are coming in 24 hours a day, in, out constantly, and that kind of thing. Also, the standard of lorries that Charlton's run is actually second to none. So not only are they a green rated operator with DVSA, which is the highest standard that is issued by the DVSA, but we actually use their vehicles as an example in our training courses for transport managers, showing them how fleets should be maintained and kept to the highest standard, all of which have road-friendly suspension and the latest emissions technologies. The final part I'd like to make is probably the most valuable one for me, which we've worked now for 10 plus years, like I said earlier. Paul, Dawn, Jake and the rest of the family have strong values when it comes to safety, reputation and standards, which is why for a relatively small family company, they do more work with us than a big blue chip companies do that employ hundreds of thousands of drivers and just employ anyone that holds a license. Myself and Jake have worked many hours to build their own specialist apprenticeship training program specifically designed for Charltons. This is because they take new people into the industry rather than just employing existing people with licenses, and they like to train them up the way they believe the job should be done. So
can we wind up now, please? I'm afraid.
Yeah, no problem. Basically, my point of this is the growth in the area with the new apprenticeship schemes. We do a lot of work around the area with unemployment and getting people into work. And the programme that we'll be able to offer from this site will be able to offer people jobs of up to £45,000, which will help the area and the residents of the area.
Thank you very much. Next, we have I think it's Jake Charlton.
Hi everyone, my name is Jake Charlton. I'm the transport manager and son within our family business. Here with me today, I have my sister Alex and her husband Jamie. I want to talk to you all on a personal level and just give you a bit of background story to this application. Our parents, Paul and Dawn, started this business back in 1990, when me and my sister were nothing but a twinkle in their eyes. He borrowed £1,700 from the bank and set off to buy his first truck hauling stone over the Mendip Hills. In 1995, when I was 4, my sister 2, my mother took her HGV license in order to support my father and help grow the business. This meant that both of our parents missed out on a lot of opportunities with us, school, sports days, and if it wasn't for the help from the grandparents, it never would have been possible. 3 recessions and many fuel strikes later, we have a successful family business now running over a dozen trucks. I took my HGV when I was 18 and my sister followed when she was 21. We both have children now with more on the way, who we love to get involved when of age. My wife, Jamie, also work in the business in the office, and we are all dedicated to keeping this a family business. Me and my sister want to continue to drive this business forward and make our parents proud in the way they have us. We need this opportunity for growth, not only for us as a business, but the local communities around us. With our new apprenticeship programme in place with WTTL, we're excited to get the new venture started, offering new opportunities to people wanting to get into the industry. We look to expand our workforce in the coming years with a new, fresh, younger generation of people. We understand there have been some concerns from the local residents. However, our design and layout has been carefully planned to minimise the impact that it may cause to our neighbours. Me and my sister have watched our parents work day and night, 7 days a week, for over 30 years to get where we are today. All my family are looking for is a chance. And today, our chance has come. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Now we go to the parish councillor, which I believe is Diana Francis.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I am Diana Francis and I am representing Shuddock's Hill Parish Council. As you probably all know, this application has already been refused twice. The council were unanimous in their decision. We really feel this is not an appropriate place for a busy lorry park. This is agricultural land, farming land, and should remain so. The 4 families that live very close will be utterly devastated if this goes ahead, and it will have a hugely negative impact on their lives. Can you imagine the change from farming land to a busy lorry park? The constant movement of lorries in and out all day, every day, the noise, the dust, the washing down, etc., all the associated goings-on of a busy industrial concern. There are several industrial units nearby with spaces available very close to Nunney. The present yard from which they operate is most suitable and has plenty of room for expansion. As this land is outside the parish plan, the council feel that if this is granted, it will open the floodgates to many other such proposals, and this area will become a horrible industrial suburb of Frome, negatively impacting the residents' lives. I'm sure that you're all aware that we live just on the edge of the Cranbourne Chase, which is an area of outstanding natural beauty. The lights that would be necessary for a lorry park would not sit at all well with the dark night skies. I respectfully ask that you refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And next we have the applicant's agent, Mr. Chris Langdon.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Chris Langdon. I'm the planning consultant for Charlton Haulage. Charlton Haulage is a family business currently employing 12 people and would like to expand to employ 20 to 25 people in the next 5 years. The current location they're at is rented, provides no long-term stability, has insufficient space to expand, and its location means that HGVs travel down rural lanes and waste a lot of time just getting to the main quarry sites. The planning policies in support of this application are fully assessed by the planning officer in the case report. Sometimes objections are selective when they quote planning policy. Please only consider the full assessment by your planning officer. We understand the concerns about taking up agricultural land and green fields. That there has been a 4-year search for alternative sites for this business, which needs to be taken into account. The alternative site report submitted with this application considers searches for the spring and summer of 2021 before the submission, and again for the summer and autumn of 2022 as a refresher and a check on availability. Various sites were shortlisted, detailed in the report, but they include Commerce Park at Frome, where there was an unsuccessful attempt to purchase land. It became clear that that business park location is not suitable for haulage depots. Also shortlisted was the block of land allocated across the road from this site on the roundabout. The owner of that site wishes to develop it for their own use. It's not available on the market. This search has been extensive. It's used a target location zone defined in the report, which would reduce the wasted travel times, allow increased productivity, and remain close, importantly, close to its staff and its customers. This business logic is supported by local and national planning policies and is accepted as sound by the planning officer. Would it be fair to expect any business that's going to invest heavily in a new facility to put that in a location where they would lose staff or be further away from their customers and waste time travelling? We understand the concerns expressed. A lot of the issues arising for traffic, access, noise, ecology, trees, drainage, visual impact, all of these have been fully assessed by the officers and accepted as satisfactory. Considering amenity of neighbours, just 2 points, if I may, well, perhaps 3 actually, given the objectors' comments just now. First is on location, the context of the location. The proposed workshop is set 15 metres away deliberately from the boundary hedge and the mobile home adjacent. The mobile home is part of a site that includes a substantial area of existing commercial activity, including a timber operation. It's not an isolated dwelling. There's been some comments about lighting. There's a lighting design that will be conditioned that has to meet the requirements of the ecologists that require very low lighting at the boundary to the site because of the bats. That is already in plan and will reduce the impact and also will not be overnight. It'll only be required when there's access and traffic, which will be during the day and early evening. Noise.
I'm afraid, could we wind up, please? Your 3 minutes are up.
Noise, the impact for noise has been fully assessed under British standards and World Health Organisations, and the internal levels of noise at the closest dwelling are comfortably within standards. Charlton Haulage are a well-respected family business willing to invest heavily to grow their business to employ another 10 people. Please respect that they have considered all available options, and on balance, this application should be supported. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. Right. Okay, now we'll move on to the ward councillors, I think, which I believe, Councillor Ham, you're one of the ward, excuse me, one of the ward councillors for this area. Have you got anything you'd like to say? Nothing further to add. Councillor Clark? At this point. Okay, I think we can open it up to the committee. I can see that Helen has got her first hand up for the day. So Helen, if you would like to
excuse me, I've got 6 points I'd like to ask questions about, and I can take them 3 at a time if you prefer, because otherwise I'll go on a long time. So I'll do the first 3. Yeah.
carry on, Helen.
Okay.
Oh, hang on, yeah, it's gone off.
Okay, first of all, reading some of the emails that have come in about this, I just wondered if the officer had checked the viability assessment, if there needs to be a viability assessment, because some of the comments that the applicant has made say that some of the other sites are not viable, and I wondered how that was actually assessed. One of the opposition speakers has said that agricultural land is only a third of the price of other land, and I wondered if that had got something to do with it, the fact that it's cheaper to pave over agricultural land and than it is. And like, for example, why not Commerce Park? I've understood from the agent that that's inappropriate, but I don't really understand why. Is it because they want to be freeholders, and at Commerce Park there'd be leaseholders? I don't really understand why Commerce Park's not available. And so I just wondered, have you had also verified their assessment of all the other sites? So, for example, we heard about Leighton, the site at Leighton. I wondered if that had been properly considered, because that seems to be a good place to go. So that's my first thing. The second one was about the comment that was made about plan-led growth. Quite often when we hear about housing, we hear that because we haven't got sufficient housing allocations, that there's something in the NPPF that kicks in that says that we have to sort of accept housing where we don't want it, unless all the other things stack up against it. And I'm wondering if that's the same when it comes to industrial location, that we have to sort of accept that industrial locations and commercial locations can go where they want if we haven't got enough land allocated. And unless lots of the other things stack up against it, unless it's going to have a harmful and detrimental impact. I can't remember what the NPPF section 11 says, but something along those lines. So looking at, if that were the case, then we need to look at what the harmful impacts might be. I'm looking at the acoustic screen. I had misunderstood that. I thought there was going to be a bund that was 3 meters high, and that the bund would act as a kind of like a sound barrier. But now I see that there's going to be quite a small bund, and it's just a fence that's 3 meters high. So I am very concerned. I know that the statutory consultee has said it's okay, and that will count against this. It will count for this application going forward. However, common sense does say that if winds are coming from the southwest, and if this is a 24-hour operation, that there's some noise and dust is going to affect the residential amenity of those people nearby. So I'm a bit concerned about that. And the conditions that are on page 49, which I haven't got in front of me right now, suggests that the Environmental Protection Officer says that the reason those conditions are in place for operation was to protect the amenity of the local residents. So why do those conditions have to be put in unless we know that the amenity of local residents is going to be affected by this? So that's my first 3.
Of your first 3, I think we'll take those 3 first, because otherwise officers will forget what you're talking about. I didn't realise they were going to be quite so long, relevant or irrelevant. Who would like to answer? I'm afraid I think you've got it.
I'm going to give it a go, and Simon might chip in if I can try and remember my thought process. So in terms of viability, the site search does refer to viability. That's basically talking about the cost of being further away from the supply chain and the quarries and staff and things like that. So there's no viability assessment as such, but that does come into the site search analysis. In terms of plan-led, yes, we do treat employment slightly different to housing, which comes out through core policy 4B in particular, which states that supporting proposals for development of the rural economy is supported where it enables the establishment, expansion and diversification of business. And here we've got an establishment in a manner and of a scale which is appropriate to the location and constraints upon it. And that, you'll notice from my officer report, is something that I particularly paid attention to. So that is why we are considering this application outside of development limits on a greenfield site. It's not green belt, which is quite a different test. Other points. And I suppose also in that it's each application is considered against its own merits. I think the officer report goes into quite a lot of detail in terms of weighing up the benefits of this site and the issues with the current site. This, as we talked about at the beginning, this site or this operation has a relationship to the quarry industry, and that is quite key to why this development is required where it's being proposed, is near to the sorry, I remember the road numbers, but it's near to the main road infrastructure. And that is why also the employment site opposite was allocated in local plan part 2. And as you heard from the agents, that site isn't available. They have, and again with Commerce Park, we hear this time and time again for these types of uses that are land heavy and they are not the cleaner types of industrial uses. Commerce Park will not allow them to go in. There are no other sites open and available in Commerce Park at the present in any case. Gone if I've missed something.
No, I think that's very good, Anna. I think, Helen, I know you have a couple more. Oh, hold on, Simon wants to come in.
The acoustic stuff
Yeah,
that I asked about.
Again, Councillor Kay and members, Councillor Kay raised the point about the imposition of conditions and the fact that by recommending the conditions, I guess you were trying to lead to the point that that in itself would be effectively a reflection that the scheme's having an adverse impact. That's not quite right. That the whole point of using planning conditions, and we're guided very closely by the national guidance, is that we should only recommend the use of planning conditions if they're necessary and in order to make the development acceptable. Clearly, the development is going to change the relationship between the site and its context, and the whole point of having the conditions is to mitigate the impact and make the development acceptable. Again, I think when you're considering the point as to whether or not the fact that we've had to rely on conditions, is that in itself something you should be concerned about? And my advice to you would be, no, you shouldn't be concerned about it. And actually, it's effective planning and positive planning.
Thank you, Simon. Now, Helen, I know you wish to come back with a couple more questions, so if you can make them reasonably.
I'd like to come back first on what's been said. Thank you. So I just want to establish there's been no viability assessment as such with the words we've used. We've said that Commerce Park is inappropriate because it's land. This business is land heavy and not clean. So that also, we just need to remember that when we think about the residential amenity as well. Yeah. Okay, so that's you're just coming back on those points, and also about the 15 metres, the warehouse. I just reckon this room is about 15 metres long, so the warehouse is going to be about this far away from the acoustic fence. I think that's about right. Okay, just to imagine that if you're living the other side of the acoustic fence. Okay, so my other points were that in terms of the environmental aspects, I mean, when I looked at this, I thought the mitigation schemes was quite good, actually. When I first looked at it, I thought there was quite a lot of tree planting, meadows, all that sort of thing was quite good. I think the only issue is that it's loss of agricultural land, for me, loss of agricultural land, which is not going to be replaceable. And also the fact is that the bats and all the wildlife won't wait for 10 years for all the mitigation to kick in. So there is going to be a gap when things are destroyed before all the other stuff grows. So in terms of environmental aspects, I'm sort of I'm trying to weigh that up. Drainage, I'm slightly concerned about. We're going to be tarmacking over a field. At the moment, it drains down to Marston Brook and the Marston Ponds. And at the moment, Marston Pond is silting up because there's lots of soil and stuff going down the brook. And I'm slightly concerned that we're going to be cleaning off lorries here, and it's going to add to the surface water. I assume it's going to add to the surface water, and that's going to have particulates in it that are going to go down to the attenuation pond and then down along the swale and then down to Marston Brook. And I see that they've got a sewer or a ditch that goes straight down to Marston Brook. So it's going to go down quite fast. So I'm concerned that it's going to be greater than the greenfield site rates that we've got at the moment, that the water coming off is going to be greater than the greenfield. Can you assure me that that is not going to be the case, and that there's going to be some way of cleaning the water to take out all the particles from the lorries when the lorries are washed? Can you just assure me of that? And then lastly, about the extra traffic, they're going to use the existing gate, which is, if you imagine lorries turning, when we had the picture of it showed a lorry coming out and turning left as if it was going south. The lorries won't be doing that. Mostly they'll be coming out and turning right and going towards the Nunneycatch roundabout. So what happens there is that I think someone called Alan Muir, who was the highways officer, actually initially recommended that this was refused. Can you assure me that all of his objections have been overcome? Because there was some kind of speed survey done that showed that people come off the Nunneycatch roundabout from Frome, they go across it if they're going towards Shepton Mallet, sometimes at 40 and 50 miles an hour. They sometimes go left down the A359 at 40 and 50 miles an hour, and then they're suddenly going to come across big heavy lorries coming out doing a right turn. Right, so I'm a bit concerned about have all those issues that Alan Muir put in his first comments back in whenever it was 2021, have they all been addressed, please? Right, so it's so that my points are drainage. Can you assure me drainage is okay? Can you assure me that the all the traffic implications are okay? And I can't remember what the other thing was now. The environmental aspects. I think also one of the trees has been chopped down already, the one by the gate. I think it's been chopped down already. I noticed that happened something like the 28th of February, just before the birding season. So these people obviously thought that they were going to go ahead and get planning permission. I don't know, but there were some large trees that were all taken down on that, along that edge. Thank you very much.
I'll just pick up on trees before I forget that. So I know there was a lot of work done to trees in the general area, not just at this site, and all that was to do with ash dieback, and that was looked into by the tree officer at the time. In terms of highways, yes, those points that Alan Muir raised were looked into and checked, and highways were satisfied by that. In terms of drainage, the drainage engineer raised no objection. She's confirmed that this drainage system that's proposed would be at the greenfield rate, and looked into the swales and the attenuation, which includes measures to deal with sediment. So that has all been looked at. Was there another thing? Sorry.
I'm just not quite sure how, Alan, the things that the highway officer, how they've been overcome, because I can't see how the traffic, unless you slow down the traffic approaching and leaving the roundabout, I don't see how those things can be overcome, really.
Do we have anybody from highways here online at the moment? Emma, maybe Emma could have a word.
Good afternoon all. Yeah, thank you very much. The applicants have supplied a transport and access statement subsequent to Alan's original comments, in which they addressed each of his comments. Those additional information provided therein has addressed all of Alan's comments. The traffic speeds are in accordance with the visibility displays available. The access has been, the radii at the junction has been increased to allow for larger vehicles to enter and exit in the correct lane. Councillor Kelly, I'm hoping that that kind of covers the majority of your queries there.
You just check.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Kate, yes, you can come back one more time, or Simon.
Yeah. Can I check that the visibility displays that they can come out and see each way? Will that involve taking down hedgerows on both sides, or will the hedgerows stay?
I don't know if you can answer that one, Emma. You might not be.
Not off the top of my head, I can't. If you can give me a few moments, I might be able to look at the drawings and have a look and see if that is the case.
Hidden, and will be hidden by hedgerows. So if they've got to then take them out for the visibility displays, it won't be hidden. And there's also going to be a big fence going around it.
Yes, okay, Helen. I think we're getting your picture.
I'm not sure if we've got a drawing that shows the actual visibility display.
Well, to be honest, if we have...
Yes, bear with me, I have found one. The visibility display drawing, unfortunately, is not 100% transparent as to where the hedgerow is. Based on the drawing that's on your screens there now that Anna's just to move away from, it does look like the visibility display does not require the removal of hedgerow. But I can't be 100% certain on that with the drawings that I've got in front of me.
Thank you for that, Emma. Very informative for the board, for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think, Helen, you've finished all of your questions now, haven't you? So we can move on to Councillor... Oh, Simon wants to come in, yeah.
Members, just one point on the points that Councillor Kay's raised. On the issue of viability, in planning policy terms, there's no requirement for the applicant to submit a financial appraisal of their proposals to justify why they submitted their application. That's because, as Anna explained, in policy terms, your local plan would support this application under policy CP4, as long as you're satisfied that the impacts on character, the environmental impacts are acceptable. So again, just to clarify that point for you, I'd hate for you to have the discussion thinking that would be a reason for refusal.
Okay, thank you for that, Simon. Thank you, everybody. Right, we're going to now move on to Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick questions. Of the officers. So I'm gauging from this that no traffic calming or no traffic calming infrastructure has been considered for this site. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was waiting for the chair to invite me to speak, that was all, sorry.
Yep, carry on.
In terms of the lighting of this site, are these lights on, forgive me if it's in the report and I've missed it, are these lights on stands or are they on the building, the external lighting? And if so, how high are they?
Forgive me, but I'm not sure about the heighting arrangement, but the lighting was something that's very sensitive for ecology. So that was something that the ecologist looked at in great detail. We have a lighting plan showing the spill, how far that spill would go. I must admit, I haven't put that in the presentation, but it is on the website. And that ensures that the lux level doesn't exceed 0.5, which is very low.
Sorry, 0.5 what?
Lux. So that's an intensity of light. So that's something that's critical in terms of the bats.
the question I had was about the height, but you
Yeah,
can't
but
answer
it-
that. And I think that's,
I think you can't get that. You can't get the lighting plan to work in terms of lux if there's going to be overspill onto the residential properties.
thank you. And also the sound barrier. Is it possible to make that bigger?
It's proposed to be 3 metres high. There's a balance to be had between, I mean, that is what's needed from the acoustic point of view. From a technical noise point of view, that's what's required. Originally, it was proposed to be closer to the neighbouring property, but we got it moved further back from that property so it didn't have the same overbearing impact. So there's a balance to be had there. Obviously, the property has been sited right on the boundary and has windows there. Having said that, there's no reason why the owner couldn't put of the field couldn't put a load of trees in or a fence in up to 2 metres without needing planning permission, which would still block out the light and have an overbearing impact on that property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Anna, for holding with us there. I now believe we've got to go to Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd make a couple of points. I've spoken to the clerk of Treddox Hill Parish Council, who wishes me to tell you that they are strongly against this development, which I am obliged to do. The viability issue, I'm sure Mr. Langdon is right in when he says Commerce Park won't accept them. The piece of land over the road is not for sale. They don't have a lot of choices if they want to be within striking distance of their market or their supplier. So I don't know whether it's the right piece of land or not, but there don't seem to be many pieces of land that they could go to in the area. The other point I'd like to make, this has had a lot of conditions attached to it by the planning officer. Conditions don't monitor themselves. If this does get approved, who is going to actually check that the conditions are being complied with? We don't want the people next door forever being on the phone saying it's too noisy, it's too this, it's too that. How do we enforce those conditions with the enforcement officer being there? Thank you.
I think, Simon, maybe you be the man to answer that one.
Thank you, Chairman. The answer to your question, Councillor Clark, about enforcement is the answer I'd give anybody who asks how we would enforce the terms of a plan permission. The Town and Country Planning Act, if you like, really establishes that it's ultimately the responsibility lies with the applicant to build out what they've got planning permission for and comply with the planning conditions that are imposed to control the way in which it should then be regulated or built out. If that doesn't happen, as with all complaints, we would investigate and we would take the appropriate course of action if it was notified that there was a breach of planning control at the site.
Simon, and did that clarify for you, Barry? Great. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Claire, you would like to speak, yeah?
Thank you, Chair. So many of the rural communities that I represent have a considerable amount of concerns to do with highways, and really it's down to the industrial and the rural side by side. I came from Evercreech today, and in the centre of Evercreech, the unintentional consequences of factors that we can't control, so with the industrial estate, the lorries doing unintentional things, going the wrong way and getting stuck. One of the public speakers talked about the appropriateness of the development in the location, and one of the officers said about the impact and as being acceptable to the environment. And another officer said about how this was a land heavy, not clean basis for the development. So I know material matters aren't about, what the future might be, but I have a very, very busy casework load of all this stuff that goes on further down the line because of scale. And so my question is, how should we be thinking if we are going to agree with the officers that the impact is acceptable in this environmental location? Why is it acceptable? If you could just bring some of those points out, please, Anna. Thank you.
Okay, Anna, I think that one will be yours.
Sorry. I think really that stems back to what I said in terms of CP4. So that that does allow for development outside development limits where it's considered to be appropriate to location constraints upon it, and that's the test. That's the key test.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay, Claire?
Doesn't really tell me a lot, but it doesn't change what the experience is with places, these rural places, when you have these types of developments and what actually happens as they scale. Thank you.
Sorry, hold on. Yeah. Martin, I think next. Oh, Phil is first, is it? Right. If you're keeping on this. Yeah. Okay, Phil.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think we're between a rock and a hard place on this one. I took the trouble to visit Chilton's yard at Apsford, where they were this morning on my way back from hospital. Cramped, the lanes are so narrow, absolutely atrocious place to try and run a haulage place from. This site is on the side of the main road. It's not going through all the villages. Mine and Barry's division covers 16 parishes, and we're littered with quarry lorries all the time. From where they're running now, it's probably a 14-mile round trip to get to the quarry and back to the, whereas if they were at Nunnycatch, it would be 1 or 2 miles. Not only we cost of saving in fuel, but the cost of the environment is huge. So I would be supporting the application.
Yeah, Martin, it's your turn.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of the public comments have mentioned noise, and we haven't actually discussed it very much. I've read the conditions, but I'm a little bit, just need a bit of clarification. There's been talk about the operator's own vehicles. There's talk about supplier vehicles and so on. What I'm trying to get at, why is there going to be an absolute restriction on time when vehicle movements can happen? And I suppose, let's put it bluntly, when will the place be completely quiet?
Thank you, Martin. Anna, do you have a...
So I think you're referring to condition 23, which is about commercial vehicle movements. That allows for the operator to bring vehicles in and out of the site, not completely 24/7. From 1 o'clock on a Saturday till midnight Sunday, there will not be any vehicles on the site. Otherwise, it's only for their own operated vehicles, just so they can park up and leave. The main noise will not be at those times. The main operation of the site, and in terms like the workshop times, are restricted separately.
Right, but obviously that is an issue that the members of the public have raised. That bit you've just talked about, that actually the operators' own vehicles can move in and out apart from that restricted time at the weekend.
That's correct. What I would say is the layout has been arranged to minimise the impact of noise. The building itself and the separation with the pond and the lorry wash will separate the vehicle parking area from those neighbours. So the actual distance from where those vehicles are dropping off and picking up will be quite a distance from those neighbours.
Okay, thank you. We've got... Okay, Helen, we're going to let you back for one more question. You've had quite a bit of time already, okay? So make it quick, and then we'll think about moving to the vote if nobody else has any questions.
Well, I was going to propose a vote. I was going to propose that we refuse this application on the basis of 1, insufficient information regarding traffic movements and safety, 2, that it's an inappropriate manner and scale, in a rural area, because apparently, sorry, just in parenthesis here, policy 4 or 4B, which allows this kind of business in a rural area, says it should be at an appropriate manner and scale and at the appropriate location. I don't think this is the appropriate location and the appropriate manner and scale. So that would be my second one. Well, you could say it affects the character of the area, but I'm trying to put it in planning terms. And 3, biodiversity loss. And 4, loss of amenity to local residents, regardless of what the Environmental Protection Officer says. I'm still very concerned about them operating out of hours and the amount, the impact it's going to have on local residents. So that's 4 reasons. So I'd like to propose that, and I'm looking for a seconder, please. Nobody.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Is anybody seconding it? Martin. Okay, thank you. So it's seconded by Martin. Now I believe Edric, you wish to have a comment.
Thank you, Chair. I echo Councillor Lovell's concerns about noise and sort of lorry movements, and I don't think restricting movements only to the weekend is good enough. I mean, we all know the noise empty aggregate vehicles make, and I think for the potential for vehicles to be leaving at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, which I appreciate people need to go to work early to pick up aggregate to take to various places and come back late at night, is unacceptable on the locals in the area. So my main objection will be based on the noise from 24-hour operation potentially during the working week. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, just looking at the conditions that we're recommending, if you look at conditions 20 through to 20, so including 21, 22, or not 22, so 20, 23 and 24, that sets out fairly tight restrictions in terms of the activities that can take place on the site. And Anna, just checking, can vehicles and vehicle activity take place 24/7 with the exception of the weekend restriction? Because looking at those conditions, that wouldn't be the case, I wouldn't think.
I'm just looking at, sorry, do you mind if I come back as I raise the issue? I'm looking at, says 24, the only vehicle movement excluding individual collection shall be permitted within the site on the Saturday own fleet. What have I missed something? Because I'm looking.
Yeah, so condition 24, so that's sorry, let me just check.
I see Monday to Friday, 7 to 6. Is that by
that's
other people?
By deliveries and collections that's separate to the haulage.
Separate.
Vehicles.
So are the haulier's own vehicles restricted on movement or not?
No,
so I'm assuming no, because of the nature of the operation.
By 23. So condition 23 is about the haulier's own vehicles, so that they're the ones that are potentially 24/7 with the exception of 1 PM on a Saturday through till midnight on the Sunday.
Yeah, that's my issue with their
the reason
vehicle.
Being that as part of their business, they do need to be able to park up sometimes at those times.
Yeah, I do appreciate
that. The frequency,
yeah.
but that
okay,
is,
thank you.
That's the opening that they required.
Yeah, thank you.
For the operation, and that was subject to a lot of discussion with Environmental Protection.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Do we have any other people? Dawn, yes.
So I'm just looking, thank you very much. I'm just looking at condition 20, where it talks about the noise generating activity shall not occur outside the following hours. What is classified as noise generating activity?
So that's part of the construction period rather than the operation period of the development. And that is a typical term that gets used. It's a good question in terms of what is noise generating, but it's where the noise. Yeah, so there's certain things that are done on a construction site, like demolition, and of heavy materials that are noise generating, whereas there's things like decorating or planting that aren't noise generating. So it's so that we can ensure that they can still do those lighter, quiet jobs outside of those times.
Okay, thank you, Anna. I think, well, I really want to draw this one to a close.
We'll make Alex the last one.
Who's you got? Alex. Okay, Alex, you're going to be the last one before we go to a vote.
Thank you, Chair. There seems to be lots of material concerns that have gone in and have all been mitigated against to acceptable levels. Perhaps my inexperience on being on a planning committee, but is there a concern over the total sum of material impacts, even though they come within each as an individual? Does the total sum, is there any concern over that, or is that a material concern?
No, not from my point of view. I think, in planning terms, you have to look and see, are there any harms? And to me, there aren't any harms that aren't outweighed by the economic benefits.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Alex. Question. And now I believe that Martin here, the legal representative, would like to come in.
It was just to summarise, hopefully, Councillor Kay's proposal before you go to the vote, councillors. As I understand it, there are 4 reasons for refusal put forward. Insufficient information regarding traffic and safety movements. Yeah. Development is inappropriate in terms of manner, scale and location, is harmful to the character of the area. Loss of biodiversity and loss of residential amenity.
Can we add in agricultural land, or does that not count? Loss of biodiversity and agricultural land. It might not be a planning consideration. I understand that.
As I read the report, it's pretty low grade.
Well, it's actually grade 3, which is not that low.
Well, it's 3A or 3B is the cutoff, but I'd probably say not.
To some extent, Councillor Kelly, will be covered by your second reason, really, because you're saying that it's inappropriate in manner and scale to the location.
Is the noise issue covered by loss of amenity to local residents? Would the noise issue be covered by that, Simon?
Well, loss of amenity can be noise. It can be overlooking, so it would capture noise
and dust and all that, and lighting.
Right, great, thank you. We've got to that stage. Now we have to get to the vote. So I believe we have to take Helen's one first. Yeah.
Yes, Chair, that's the only motion that's before you at the moment. So if that is carried, that's your decision. Okay.
Okay, everybody in favour of Helen's proposal, please.
5, Chair.
Everybody against?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Chair. That's lost. Chair.
Okay.
So
Are there any abstentions? I don't think there are there?
So, Chair, we need a fresh proposal.
We need a fresh, as the legal person has said, Martin said, we need a fresh proposal. Barry, are you going to propose one?
Yeah, sorry. I vote we go with your officer's recommendation.
And Philip, you're seconding, is that correct? Okay, so we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Seven, Chair.
All those against?
5, Chair. So that's carried.
That's carried. Okay, thank you very much. So
As Vice Chair, the application we go through as is laid out, that is carried in the form it was laid out. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your attendance, everybody. It's much appreciated.
Okay, I'm back. There's something I'm going to mention now that's just been pointed out to me. That in our constitution, a planning meeting can only last 4 hours. But with the allowance on top of that for the toilet breaks or comfort breaks that we've had. So we have to really sort of trot along and not waffle too much this afternoon. Okay, thank you. Did you wish to say something?
Can I very slightly add to that? So allowing for the can I make a suggestion at the absolute limit, allowing for the toilet break and the technical hitch we had, that we should finish with 6:20, I would have thought. Is that fair, legal? Martin, please. I thought we had a technical issue which cost us a few minutes.
I don't think we formally adjourned in that point, but I think that's fair.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd have thought 6:20, Nick.
Okay. Is everybody else okay with that? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Have we got everybody back in the room now? No, we're still missing Phil. To DM2, which is Paddocks End, Vinnie Lane, Titherington, Froome. And I think Jennifer is taking this one.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Okay, so this application is for outline planning permission with all matters reserved except access for the erection of a detached single-storey eco-dwelling to replace the riding school and buildings. It's at Paddocks End in Titherington, just off Vinnie Lane. So there's a slight delay between my computer and the screen. There we go. This map. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, this map gives an aerial view of the wider land. So the yellow circle is where the site is in Titherington. The red boundary is the development limits of Froome. So this is a slightly closer up aerial view of the site. The area hatched in blue is the application site itself. Towards the south of that blue area is where the Menage and stable buildings are. The access is from Vinnie Lane to the south. And here's the location plan, which shows the current buildings on the site. So as you can see, they're all down the northwest boundary. The Menage is to the front of those, and again, it just shows the access to Vinnie Lane. So these are the elevations of the stable buildings that are there currently. This is barn free, so that's the largest stable. Oh, sorry, I think I must have missed this slide. So these are the other buildings on site. They're slightly smaller, all single story, all used in conjunction with the equestrian use on the site. And this is a proposed layout of the site of the single story dwelling. As you can see, the actual dwelling itself is largely going to be sited on the footprint of the existing buildings. And these are photos of the site currently. This is the Menage, the equestrian use with the stables in the background. This photo is taken from the access. And another photo of the sites. And this photo is taken looking up towards the rear of the site, towards the what will be the wider paddock to the rear. And then the photo on the right looks back towards the dwellings that are already there that line the roadside. And that's the southern boundary. Oh, sorry, I think actually the southeast boundary. And the access to the site on Vinnie Lane. The photo on the left is the access track, and the one on the right is the visibility onto Vinnie Lane itself. And these are indicative designs that were included within the design and access statement. So this is obviously outlined with all matters reserved. So this isn't what they're proposing necessarily, it's just indicative. And as updating, since the reports were circulated, the agent has suggested a slight amendment of the wording of the biodiversity net gain condition, condition 11. As you can see, I've highlighted it in red. They're just proposing that instead of a B brick being built into the wall, because they're going to propose rendered walls, they would prefer to have an externally fixed B box or B hotel. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's really good. Next, we're going to go to, we have no members of the public to speak, but we do have, I believe, the parish council, which is Councillor Shane Collins on Teams. Are you there, Shane?
Yes, I am here. Hi. Sorry about that. The phone's just going at the wrong time. Yes, Shane Collins, thank you for the chance to speak, local councillor for the area. I won't take up much of your time. I just want to speak in support of this. You know, we talk a lot about trying to have good sustainable developments in the division, and this has got solar panels on the roof, battery storage, solar gain, ground source. Yeah, I know you're very busy but I would just like to speak in support of it as laid out in section 1.3 in the planning statement. It's great, and we spend a lot of time complaining at other developers and not doing it properly. This looks proper, and I hope we can support it.
Thank you, Shane, for you doing it in a quick, smart time. Very good.
All right, thank you.
Next, we move along to the applicant's agent, which I believe is James Udell.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, members of the Planning Committee. Good to be back. We're delighted that the application is recommended for approval, and we commend the Planning Officer's report. We're also delighted the application has received unanimous support from the Parish Council, ward councillors, the relevant consultees and neighbours. As Jenny's alluded, our proposal is designed around sustainability at its core, and we're including a eco-dwelling with substantial sustainability features, which our clients are fully committed to deliver. The development will replace the existing riding school and associated buildings and riding arena with a sensitively designed single-storey eco-dwelling that will create the following social, economic and environmental benefits. It will redevelop an existing brownfield site within a sustainable location, create significant reductions in travel movements with significant highway and environmental benefits, create significant reductions in greenhouse gases. The site is not located in any protected or designated areas of special interest like AONBs or anything like that. And it's also well related to the existing settlement of Tiverington, is surrounded by built form. The development will secure significant biodiversity and ecological enhancements and gains, which is in the case officer's report. The site's located outside the Somerset Levels and Moors Ramsar catchment area, so is not affected by the phosphates issue, which is stalling so much development within Somerset and beyond. And the dwelling will provide specialist housing designed with level thresholds, disabled access under the Reserve Matters application. Appreciate that detail is not before you currently. The development provides significant benefits for housing supply to help the council meet its 5-year housing supply. It will create significant reductions in surface water and reuse water through rainwater harvesting systems. It will remove the riding score with knock-on residential amenity benefits, taking away associated movements and activities. It also creates significant social and economic benefits. And one of the key social benefits is that it will enable the current occupier of Paddock's End to basically carry on living in Tiverington. So it's kind of an enabling development to allow her to be able to stay in the village that she's lived in for the past 40 plus years. So overall, the proposed development will have a significantly positive impact on the environment, and the detailed appearance, scale, layout and landscaping of the scheme can be fully designed under a reserved matters application. In conclusion, no adverse impacts have been identified that would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the combined weight of the significant social, economic and environmental benefits, and as such will achieve sustainable development. And the Planning Committee is asked to support the case officer's recommendation to approve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, James. I believe our first member of the committee who wishes to speak is Councillor Hobbs.
I thought I'd start off for a change. I think this is a great idea. Seems to tick lots of boxes, as Shane's already alluded to, in terms of positive gain in everything, solar panels, heat pumps. I'm sure Helen feels, I'm speaking on behalf of Helen, I'm sure Helen feels the same on this when she's smiling over there. I'd already like to recommend that I propose we accept this in line with the officer's recommendation. I mean, I don't think there's lots to discuss in this one. I think it's actually a brilliant idea.
I'll second that.
We have a seconder.
Yeah,
yeah, Claire, second that. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else wants to speak? Quickly. Thank you.
It's just a quick technical question. I think it's a really good application, and yeah, I fully support it. I'm also a ward councillor or divisional councillor for this area. I just want to know, on page 61, the officer does say that although we've had this sustainability and renewable energy design, you do say, you know, all these wonderful things, ground source heat pumps and all the rest of it. You say, while the applicant's commitment to delivering a new dwelling based on the eco build as outlined above is to be applauded, the application does not propose the level of detail that's needed to conclude that the application scheme will deliver the design, which is of exceptional quality as enshrined, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just wondering if is it possible to somehow put a condition in that we can have because you haven't got a condition at the moment for a resource efficient building, we can actually have a condition for that so it goes forward into the reserved matters. Because sometimes what happens is somebody gets outline planning permission and then sells the property to somebody else, and then they come in and do the full planning application later and they change things. So although it's in principle, this is fantastic, I just want to make sure that we sort of pin it down, really.
Who would like to answer that, Simon?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll start off, and I'm sure Jenny will add anything if she wants to. Again, members, if you look at the report pack and the officer recommendation, we've set out clearly the case for approval. The reference in the report that Councillor Kay referred to was a provision in the NPPF at paragraph 80. So again, it's important that you note three things about this application. One, it's outside of development limits, so there isn't any specific policy support in your development plan for this application. So that's why we've said it's recommended for approval as a departure. So therefore, we take the assessment to the NPPF, and as you all well know, Para 11 is very crucial. We assess the harms against the benefits. There's also provision in the NPPF under paragraph 80 for basically setting aside your development plan if the design is exceptional. Obviously, as you've heard, this is an outline application with no design parameters proposed for determination or assessment. All today you're approving is the access arrangements and the principle of a dwelling. If you go to the conclusion that we've recommended to you, we're recommending that you can approve it as a departure based on the fact that it is redevelopment of effectively land that's previously developed. So we're recommending that you give minimal weight to those sustainability credentials, because whilst, yes, they are really, really positive and they're a really good idea, and I'm really glad that James has come today and spoke on behalf of the applicant to say that they will deliver it. We don't think that's necessary in order for you to approve it.
Okay, so it's the icing on the cake really, rather than the substance of the approval, the cake itself, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Simon and Helen. You seem to be happy. Right, I believe Councillor Ham would like to say something.
Yeah, Simon actually half answered it. Fully in support of the application, and I like what I see. At what point does a riding stable blocks become brownfield site? So, you know, you partly answered it, but not quite.
Chair, if I can, I think Councillor Ham, each site, each use would depend on the characteristics. Again, as part of Jenny's presentation, you saw the photographs. That's sufficient for us to conclude that, in essence, it's redevelopment of a brownfield site. If clearly you've got an open field that is still maintained as grass with a couple of stable buildings, we probably wouldn't have said that was previously developed land. But in this case, I think the photographs demonstrate that that's a reasonable assumption.
Lovely, thank you, Phil. Thank you, Simon. Do we have any other people who wish to speak before we go to a vote? Okay, I do need proposer.
Done it. You got it.
Okay, let's go to the vote. All in favour?
Unanimous.
Right, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to DMO3, which is change of use for agricultural land to domestic curtilage with associated access and parking. This is at Holly Cottage, Pound Lane, Oak Hill. And if you don't know where Oak Hill is, you should have been there to have a look. Thank you. And I believe Jennifer, yes.
Yep, hello, that's me again, thank you. Right, okay, yep, so for the change of use of agricultural land to domestic curtilage with associated access and parking at Holly Cottage off Pound Lane in Kill. Okay, again, so this aerial overview shows the location of the site circled in yellow towards the centre, and then Oak Hill is surrounded, the development limits of Oak Hill are surrounded in red to the south. And a closer aerial view of the site, see Holly Cottage is just to the north of Pound Lane. So this is the existing. It's worth noting that the change of use of the land would be retrospective as the fencing has already, well, it's already been fenced off. I imagine the change of use it's already taken place, however the access is not there currently. So this is the existing access onto Pound Lane. And then the section of land to which is subject to the change of use is this area to the west and north. And this is the proposed. So as you can see, a new access is proposed further to the west of the existing, and then the existing access will be bricked up apart from a small pedestrian gate, and then a new parking area created to the west. So these are some photos of the site. This one was taken from the existing field access back towards Holly Cottage itself. So this is the parcel of land in question. Again, this is the existing field access, and the change of use is on the parcel of land just to the east. These photos are taken from where the proposed access will be. You can see on the right-hand photo, that's the existing field access, and on the left-hand photo, that's the existing house access. So there's decent visibility in both directions. Again, this is just the photo on the left was taken further up the lane, so you get a wider view of where the access will be along this hedgerow. And this is the existing parking area and existing garage that's associated with the main house. Okay, and that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. We have no public speakers for this one. So I'm looking, I believe that maybe Barry and Phil are the ward councillors here. It's not, is it? Hard to work out. It's you, Edric.
Well, I didn't comment on this because I have no problem with it. I know the area well. It's a very quiet road. It's one of my safe routes to cycle. So minutes don't get mown down by traffic. So I have no problem with this at all. And again, I'd recommend approving it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony.
Thank you, Chair. I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Hobbs. I've been up and had a look. I can't see any reason why we wouldn't agree to it.
Are you seconding Councillor Hobbs?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, you've already been beaten to it. You were going to do it. No, you're okay, Tony. Right, okay, Helen.
Just a technical question, really. It seems to me that what we're being asked to do is to give permission to tarmac over a field for extra parking and change the entrance to two garages, which will now not be accessible because we're going to put a fence or a brickwork across the current entrance. So I'm wondering what, at the moment, there's obviously accommodation above the double garage. And I'm wondering if the applicant has given any indication that they are planning to change that double garage into a accommodation, because the parish council says they'd like to bring attention to the garage is currently being used as accommodation. There'll be no entrance to the garage from the new access point. I just don't really understand what's that. Has that got anything to do with it? And are we actually sort of creating, are we going to get another application for a dwelling coming forward after this? I don't really understand I don't really feel I can see the full picture. Let's put it that way.
Simon, would you like to answer that?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Kay, if you look at condition 6 of the officer recommendation, in terms of the permission that we're recommending that as a board, as a committee, you approve, it would restrict the car parking area and the new access for use in connection with the residential dwelling referred to as Holly Cottage. So it would, if you approve the officer recommendation, your decision as a committee would not then automatically qualify as you approving a separate residential dwelling on the site. If the landowner now or in the future decided to submit an application to develop a dwelling on the site, you would be entitled to assess it against the policies in your plan and in the NPPF. So effectively, not for consideration at today's meeting.
Okay, I thank you for bringing that to my attention. I do say it says in accordance with proposals submitted, and given that there would be no policy support for a separate residential use or occupation on the site. I think we have got policies. We haven't got local plan policy support, but NPPF section 11 gives us support for all these, the following ones that are going to happen, that are coming up in the rest of the meeting, doesn't it? So anyway, it's a side issue, and I'm in support of the general principle of them having it. I've just wanted the backstory.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Thank you, Simon. Is there anybody else who wishes to make a comment? Okay, we'll move to the vote. All those in favour?
Unanimous again.
And anybody against? No. Okay, thank you. Carried unanimously. On to, I think it's DMO 3? 4. Yeah. And this one is being done by Jane. Okay, hello Jane. This is the erection of a single story rear extension and internal alterations, and this is it.
Excuse me. Before we go, Councillor Robbins, can you leave the room, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot.
Sorry, Chair.
Declare both interests, didn't they? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we will start again. We're doing DMO 4, which is the erection of a single-story rear extension and internal alterations at 10 Lumen Avenue, Wells, in Somerset. So, Jane, if you would like to Give your presentation, please.
Thank you, Chair. As you will have gathered at the top of the meeting, this is really here only for reasons of probity because of the connection of the applicant to Councillor Butt-Phillips. So it's fairly simple. Oh, we now got this delay. So it's Lumond Avenue is, you can just see the tiny little dot, sorry, above the boundary of the conservation area. So it's a residential area of Wells to the north there. It's slightly unusual in that it's got a front Lumond Avenue and then it's got Woodacre, just called Woodacre to the rear. So it's sort of open on both sides. That's the front elevation there, quite open. You can see the garage just at the end of the driveway there. And that's the rear elevation. And it's a small extension just infilling that little cutout bit there. It'll allow some internal alterations. So the main concern is its impact on the street scene and the neighbours. Especially from the rear there, and you can see the neighbours on both sides, and this is from the rear. You've seen the view from the front. So it really will not intrude either on the street scene or on the neighbours. And I didn't include a photograph, but I did go up Woodacre, and the houses on Woodacre have maybe one of particular glazed window looking over, so it shouldn't be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Very, very good. Thank you very much. We don't appear to have any speakers, including the other members. So we're going to move on to the committee members, and I believe Councillor Hobbs wishes to speak again straight away.
Only to prove that I've actually read the pack, but I'm wondering why Glastonbury Town Council approved it. If you look at your pack, as opposed to Wells City Council. Just to prove I've read it.
I'll go and change it.
Apart from that, I would like to recommend we approve this.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So I believe Councillor Kay is first. Helen.
I was just going to second it, that's all. Just to second it.
You want to second it, Helen? Okay, thank you.
She beat me to it again, Mr. Chairman, so I'll third it.
Sorry. Okay. Is there anybody else wishes to speak? No. Edric, you paying attention? Do you wish to speak? No? No. Okay, thank you. So we'll go to the vote. I don't believe Edric has a seconder for this one. So will somebody be happy to second? Yeah. Oh, Helen did. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting confused. Senile. No, whatever. Okay, let's go. All in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. That's another good one.
Chairman, point of order, Mr. Chairman. I thought more people declared an interest on that than has left the room. Am I wrong?
What I believe is that Councillor Tony, that he declared both lots of interest. We declared personal interest, whereas he declared personal and prejudicial, which is different.
Happy with that, thank you.
There are reasons. I'm quite happy to tell you outside of the room why.
No, I don't want to prolong the conversation, believe me.
Okay, thank you. Would somebody like to go and ask Tony to come back in? Please. Okay, Tony, if you'd like to take your seat, we can go on with the next one. Right, we're moving on to DMO5, which is a conversion of an agricultural barn to a dwelling. And this is a plot Hornblossom Farm, Millhouse to Fossway. Yeah, I know where it is. Millhouse to Fossway, Hornblossom. I've been there. Okay, so Kelly, if you'd like to carry on with your presentation, please.
Thank you, Chair. Let's hope I've loaded the right one. Yes, I have. So you're right. This is Hornblossom Farm. at Hornblotton, we have an existing agricultural building which is proposed to be converted to a dwelling. There's the site for those of you who don't know it. And this is the building in question, which is currently being used by the applicant in association with her small holding. This is the existing outbuilding and elevations. And the proposal, as I said, is to convert it to a dwelling. This site already benefits from an extant permission under the prior approval procedure for conversion to a dwelling, and that extant permission is material when you're considering this proposal. These are the proposed elevations. And that concludes my presentation, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Very quick and to the point. And again, we have no public speakers that I can see of, or agents or anything. So we'll move straight to the committee. Who would like to speak first? Nobody? Yeah, Marta, Helen. I think Helen, your arm was up first.
I just wondered if this was in a sort of an area that you know, we should be respecting bats or whatever it's called, a dark skies area. It might not be a dark skies area, but that whether or not we really want to have roof lights throwing light up into the night sky. I just noticed that. I hadn't looked at the plans before, and I've only just noticed it. And the other thing I noticed here was that it's got extant permission, and I think it got it in August 2020. And I just wondered when the phosphates business all kicked in, because now they're saying that this is in an area that suffers, you know, normally you'd need a mitigation scheme for phosphates, but this doesn't need a mitigation scheme for phosphates because it's already got permission. But I just wondered what the timeline was on that. If you could just reassure us, yeah.
Okay, could Simon? No, I actually think Martin's probably the best person to answer that question.
Yes, the letter from Natural England that kicked all the phosphate issue off was August 2020.
When was the extant permission for this? Before that?
Yeah, Simon.
Well, it's confirmed in the appeal pack. The report pack, Councillor Kay, is 5th of the 8th. So that was obviously in 2020 a decision issued by the Plan Inspectorate. But what's probably more relevant for you, and don't ask me to explain the justification, but the way in which town and country planning legislation works with the habitat regs regulations legislation, it is not straightforward. And for applications that are submitted for determination under the Act, the habitat regs assessment is binding on those applications. So that is why when we have the planning application, we can take into account the phosphate deposition issue and go through the process of securing a mitigation scheme. But the provisions that allow a change of use under the general permitted development order are not binding on the habitat regs. So effectively, if a landowner secures a prior approval to convert an existing building to residential, they don't need to secure, and we're not entitled as the local planning authority to consider the phosphate mitigation issue. So therefore, translating that permission and that concept through to the application before you, it's what we refer to as a fallback position. So effectively, the barn on the site can be converted for residential use in full or in part without any decision maker being entitled to consider the phosphate deposition issue.
Okay, thank you, Simon. I think that answers the question. Okay, do we have any more questions? No? Oh, yes, Martin.
Well, was Helen raised a question about dark sky and lights, roof lights? Does anybody wish to comment on that from the officer point of view?
Chairman, I will.
Okay, Kelly.
The existing barn already has roof lights in it, and under the prior approval, they could convert that building now and leave the roof lights in it.
Thank you for that. So as we haven't, Edric, for a change, has not put his hand up to propose this one. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? Dawn, are you proposing? Alex. And Alex is seconding. Okay. So now are we ready to go to the vote? All those in favour of the motion?
Sorry, councillors, can you sorry, one thing. Yeah, it's unanimous, Chair. Yeah.
Unanimous, that's great. Thank you very much. We can move on from that one. In case you hadn't realised, I'm not 100% at the moment. I have a bit of a bad throat and I'm a bit deaf, sinusitis. Okay, we move on to Laurel Farm at Sticklinch in Laurel Lane. And this is back to Kelly again. This one is recommended for refusal, I believe.
Correct, Chairman. Yes, it is. Okay. So this application is Laurel Farm at Laurel Farm Lane, Sticklinch. It's a domestic property that has a outbuilding in the grounds of it at the moment, and the proposal is for the demolition of that building and replacement with a further building which provides first floor holiday accommodation, and on the ground floor there will be a storage area for the host house and a studio. That's the location in Sticklinch, West Pennard. That's what the existing building looks like currently. It's in a relatively isolated position outside the settlement limit. And as you all know, there is provision for the conversion of existing buildings under certain circumstances to holiday accommodation. But this is a new build in what we consider an unsustainable location because it's remote from services and facilities, and the occupiers will be heavily reliant on private vehicle to access it. This is what the building looks like. The ecologists found a bat roost in the single-storey building. So to mitigate for that loss, they're proposing a new building near to the replacement building to host the little bats. That photo is from the side of the building with the graffiti on. That's the actual building. That's the host house in the background. Just another picture of the building that's going to be demolished. There we have the proposed floor plans. And I don't know whether you can see that if I start messing around with the mouse. There. You see that there. That's a new building as well to house the new bat accommodation. These are the proposed plans. The application is recommended for refusal, Chairman, as set out in the report pack, and it's primarily due to the fact that this would be new build accommodation outside the settlement limits in an isolated and remote location away from services and facilities, and any economic benefits associated with this development in terms of the minor flat accommodation above the studio and workshop are not considered to be outweigh the harm identified in terms of its unsustainable location. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. We do have a speaker on this one. We have Mr. Simon, is it Llewellyn Jones? Jones. Yes, if you'd like to go over, that's it, correct.
Thank you very much for letting me speak. I'll obviously get on with it and be as quick as possible. I want to respectfully say that I think this refusal is unfair and I would ask you to reconsider it. Let me give you a timeline, if I may, which I feel is relevant. Full planning application was made in 2021 and everything was done properly. The phosphates, the ecologicals, the bats, of course, as you know, are a big thing around here. On December the 29th, we revised plans slightly, simply to move the building a few metres to the left, which obviously was a change. One thing I would like to stress is the existing building is very, very unsafe and cannot be converted. It has no foundations, it has serious cracks. So the thing you mentioned, it wouldn't be possible to convert that building. But my point, getting to it quickly, is that we were advised that a decision would be made within 5 weeks from putting in those plans. That is by the 2nd of February. Despite many reminders that we needed that decision, we did not receive it. It was a refusal until the 17th of April, which is a long, long time after it was supposed to be. I'm not saying what the decision was wrong, but what I am saying is we fell really badly in between the cracks because, as you all know, during this application, indeed after this application should have been approved or whatever, things changed and the Somerset became a unitary authority, and I think it's called a change of interpretation or something like that. And all the things that we had done, that we'd been advised by our architect that would get application, indeed, tourist accommodation was encouraged for the local economy at the time, although the interpretation has subsequently changed. We don't want to run a business, but we would obviously love to have the option to do an Airbnb aside from a ancillary amenity accommodation. But what I'm saying is that the decision was so late and nobody told us that things were changing. We did everything the right way. I mean, we obviously take applications seriously. We realise that planning approval is not guaranteed, of course, but we did it in the right way, and the rules changed, and I would ask you to consider that as something that is really important and unfair, not unfair by the planners, but unfair by the situation. And I believe this is a very well justified decision. And just wrapping up, because I know you want me to be quick, we've already spent a lot of money on this with ecological and planning and stuff like that. If we had to reapply for, say, a non-holiday let thing, that would cost us a fortune and it would take a long, long time. I also think the building as it is ugly and dangerous for I have young children. I think it would look much more fitting with the community. And I think it's a good application, but as I say, my central point, apart from the other ones, is that things changed. The goalposts were moved while this planning was going through, and also the planning took a very, very long time to go through, and therefore took us over that time. So thank you very much, and I hope you'll consider that.
Thank you very much. And I think next we'll move on to the ward councillors, which are firstly is Claire. Councillor Sully.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to sort of focus on the development plan for Mendip Core Strategy, which is to repurpose empty buildings that support rural economic development. What's the applicant meant to do? Just let the building fall down? The scale of the operation there, I don't think it's going to lead to bus loads of people going down those tiny roads. And the officer talked about the economic benefits versus the harm, that the economic benefits don't outweigh that. So that's almost an acknowledgement that that it isn't, it's such a small kind of operation. I just can't see the numbers of cars going down those roads. The nature of the geography, particularly there and across Mendip South, would mean that anybody that wanted to do holiday accommodation, set up holiday accommodation, that sustainability argument would then be counter to people setting up and having holiday accommodation in these rural areas, which are highly desirable for people to come in. It's a really important part of our local economy, is that people come and visit these places. So I will be recommending that we approve this application. As I say, because the building will just fall down. Let's look at what Mendip wants to do around their development plan, the core strategy, which is repurpose this. It's not a big building at all. It's just looks like a sort of toilet that's about to crumble. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Next is Alex, and if you've got anything you'd like to add to Claire?
Nothing too much to add to Claire, other than the fact that as it is at the moment, it's, as Claire said, it's a sort of falling down building that I think would be much better purposed into being transformed into what this proposal is trying to do. I'm also in support of it. And yeah, I don't see any sort of material reason why it shouldn't be approved.
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to take my chairman's prerogative and I'm going to jump in on this one, which I very rarely speak at since I'm the chairman. I know this area. The gentleman probably doesn't. He does recognise me. I do know the area. I had to go there when I was working at different times, and I know this building. And this building is derelict, to be quite truthful with you, and I don't think it's suitable for conversion. In fact, what it used to be in the 1960s, where Philip might remember this, it was the garage for a cattle lorry that used to transport local cattle to the Frome Market and Glastonbury Market, and it was John Cox was the person. So yeah, because I think it's an ugly old building that needs to go, I will be supporting the application.
Just to make a point that we seem to be asked to approve a number of similar sort of extensions to properties, additions to properties, and I know there are some technical differences perhaps in this case, but I think the applicant put up a very good case, especially about the time it's taken us to consider this, given the changeover of councils. So I'm minded to go along with approval.
Thank you, Martin. I believe Simon wishes to come in.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, members just listening to debate. Just to clarify, it's not a conversion of an existing building. It's a rebuild. So it's demolish what you see, rebuild, and therefore the policies that we have to apply, we can't apply policy DP22, which would have allowed you to recommend approval with your development plan policy support. And we have to then go to policy CP4 and policy CP3, which is where you have to judge and balance the economic development benefits arising from the use of the building as a tourism let. And obviously, as Kelly set out in her report pack, what's proposed is effectively a multi-purpose building, which includes a workshop, a studio. So activities being undertaken by let's say person A, person B is going to come in and they're going to take the top floor as a holiday let. And what we've done as officers is judged that the economic benefits around providing a relatively small unit of holiday accommodation with no real sort of external facilities for people to rest and relax and enjoy doesn't outweigh the impact of the site location in planning policy terms, given it's rural and isolated. But that's our judgment, and obviously that's what you're quite entitled as a board to make that judgment and balance that judgment separately. I think in terms of the applicant and his point about timing, again, it's very unfortunate, and we apologise. We apologise to many applicants. Again, it hasn't been our doing; it's been natural illness and the phosphate issue. And just one final thing, Chairman, if as a board you do go on to approve, I think we need to spend some time giving you advice on the conditions that you'd need to impose. So if you do approve, can it be subject to basically officer delegation for the conditions? Because I don't think we can advise you today at the meeting.
Right, thank you for that, Simon. Very sound advice. And next we have to move on to Councillor Kay. Helen.
Yeah, I don't agree that we can refuse this in terms of sustainable development and location, because we've just approved something that was equally remote, although it was a barn conversion. And I'm not sure if that's the difference, just because one was a barn conversion and the other one, they're both down narrow lanes and at the end of a narrow lane. So that's the difference, okay, that you just explained. All right, okay, thank you. And I actually was going to say the same thing about conditions. I am okay. I'd like to propose that we what am I saying? That we approve this contrary to officer recommendations. Yeah, with conditions to be delegated to officers. I just don't know if that's the way you normally put it.
Thank you, Helen, but I believe that Claire has already done that. So if you would like to second that, that would be good.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So we know what we're doing. Now, I believe, Martin, you wish to speak.
No, sorry, I was just for
Oh, you were just
clarification.
speaking. Okay, thanks. Phil?
Just like to add that because the conditions be in consultation with the board members as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Martin, the legal man, is coming in.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. So the substantive motion is to approve the application with conditions delegated to officers in consultation with your chair, vice chair and the ward members. In terms of the reasons for approving contrary to officer recommendation, from the debate, I understand it is the economic benefit. You feel that the economic benefits outweigh the harm in terms of the growth and the need to travel and the sustainability of the location, and also the benefits of removing a derelict building, I think was also part of your discussion. Does that sort of reflect what the proposer and seconder?
Yeah, repurposing that building rather than letting it fall down. They can't do anything else with it, really.
Well, I think the building's
can't
been
convert it.
demolished. So
Yeah, they can't convert what's there. So.
Councillor Hobbs, Edric, you wish to come back in again? And thank you, Martin.
I haven't spoken yet on this one. I think I need to speak because I, when it was referred to, agreed with the officer recommendation because it is a new build. And I think I'm hiding nothing looking around the room on this one, but I felt the need to speak in support of Kelly's refusal, particularly because it's going to pull down a bat roost basically and put something else up. And it is a transitional roost to at least 2 forms of bat, so I'm not happy with it at all.
Okay, does anybody else wish to speak? Yeah, Claire?
Really quickly, there's no objections. West Pennell Parish Council approved it. Highways Development Officer gave standard advice. The environmental protection, there was no objection, and the contaminated land, no objection subject to an informative concerning a watching brief. There's been no comments about it. It's very isolated, so it doesn't affect anybody. So.
I'm afraid you're not allowed to speak now. Yeah.
We just to say, members, in terms of the point that Councillor Hobbs has raised about the impact on the loss of the bat roost, that would be one of the conditions that we'll work up and we'll put forward to the chair and the ward member.
If it is conditioned in relation to that, then I'd probably go along with everybody else, although I recommend, I wanted it heard by us to go along with Kelly's thing. But if we can condition it in relation to the bat roost, then, which was my main concern, in all honesty, as I've just alluded to, then I'd be happy to support it along with everybody else.
Chair, again, I think if the officer, if the member's recommendation is to approve, subject to conditions being delegated to officers to then be approved by yourself and the ward member, that will probably be an appropriate way of covering that point that Councillor Hobbs has just raised.
Okay, thank you, Simon. That sounds right to me. I think that's okay with you. Oh, Phil, you want to come in?
Very quick question. Would this site be clarified as a brownfield site?
Who knows the answer to that one? Nope. Sorry, Phil. Nobody can give you an answer on that one. Makes a change. Oh, and Dawn, you'd like to have a question?
Yeah, I just also wanted to mention that not everybody goes away wanting amenities and facilities. So some people actually would like to go to an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere and do nothing. So I don't think that that would be something that I would consider as a reason to disapprove.
Okay. Nobody else? Okay, so we'll move to the vote.
You want to read the motion because it's against officer advice.
Yeah, who can somebody read the motion? Because
I will give it another go. Yeah,
Martin.
So
Yeah.
The motion is to approve the application contrary to officer recommendation on the basis that the economic benefits outweigh the harm from growth in the need to travel and the unsustainable location. and the benefit of removing a derelict building. So it's approval with conditions delegated to officers in consultation with the chair, vice chair and the ward members.
Yeah. Okay, everybody happy with that? Okay, and understand? Right, okay. All those in favour? Okay.
5, 6, 7, 11.
And all those against? 1. Okay, thank you. So that motion is passed. Right, now we're moving on again. As I said earlier, it's Lower Stoke Farm, Barrowwood Lane, and that's in Rodney Stoke. And we're going to Kelly once more.
Thank you, Chair. I don't come for ages, and then I take over the show. Okay, so this is an application for the change of use of a building to ancillary accommodation. There's extensive extension to this existing dwelling, and I will move on. The site is surrounded by agricultural land, and you can see there the building, the yellow circular thing is a turning circle. To the biggest building there is a barn, which is currently being used for ancillary uses in association with the dwelling. And on down one side, it is being used for equine. There's lots of stables in there. The application seeks the demolition of some of the extensions, as I've said. The barn will be converted to ancillary accommodation, but they intend to keep the stables as they are within that building. So if I try and show you there. So on the left of the picture, you've got the existing arrangement with the massive barn that's evolved over the planning history, which is detailed in the planning report. And then on the right, you have all the extensions and alterations proposed. That's the existing barn on the left and the house on the right. Existing house, first floor and roof. Existing floor plan of the barn. First floor plan of the barn, sorry. That's how the house looks currently. It gets more exciting at the end because we've got 3D pictures and stuff, Chairman. So that's the existing barn as is now. So there on the left is the house. It's in a large plot surrounded by agricultural land, as I said, no immediate neighbours. That's the big barn on the right-hand side. And the part of the proposal, is, as you saw on the floor plan, was to link that building. That's another view, the house in the foreground, the barn behind it. That's taken from the back garden of the house, if you like, looking towards the barn, so you can see the relationship. That's the rear of the house with the barn on the left. That's the proposed floor plan. So the alterations are extensive, Chairman, but you'll see from the report pack that we've identified no harm. First floor plan, roof plan, proposed elevations, and then 3D views of what it could look like if members approve this application. Just bear with me, Chair. I'll just see if there's anything else I wanted to add. I don't think there is. We brought this application to the board, Chairman. We advertised it as a departure because, strictly speaking, we didn't feel that it completely accorded with the policies of CP1, CP2 and CP4. So it's more a precautionary approach to this application more than anything else, but you can see it's recommended for approval. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Kelly. I don't believe that we have. Do we have the members here for that board? Do you want to put him to speak? No.
We've not made any comment.
Okay, so we've got nothing there. No, that's okay. So we'll go on and we'll invite Nigel.
Chartered Town Planner, agent for the application. I mean, Ken has probably said it all, actually. Other than I'll say, look, it is an isolated location. The site's got quite a complicated history, but it's all been resolved now by certificates of lawfulness. It's an agricultural building that's been used for quasi-domestic storage purposes and stabling. Modern farmhouse, no longer has a tie in it. The proposals is quite a sort of sexy scheme of substantially altering and extending the house by a factor of 3. So it's very big alterations, but to my mind, it's very high quality design, embedded with high quality of sustainability. The barn element is perhaps slightly more controversial. It's a bit of an ugly mutt. It's very large scale. And the proposal remodels its roof so it's much more attractive and repurposes some of it to provide some ancillary guest accommodation for the main house. I think it's all pretty straightforward. Obviously, your officer thinks it's pretty straightforward. It would have been delegated had not the scheme of delegation just changed with the new council. And it has no roof lights, by the way, so there's no night sky pollution. So I hope you can go along with that. I think it's an interesting scheme. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Okay, so we have no one else to speak, so we're going to go straight to the committee. And who wishes to speak? Edric.
Thank you very much, Nigel. We know it's got no roof lights because Councillor White hasn't commented on it. She's the division member. Otherwise, she'd have been here or been online commenting. I think this is great. It is a large building. I'm all for this. I really like the style. I like this style of development. I think it fits in very well in the countryside environment. I like the colour. I mean, I think that the palette is indicative of things I like to see in a countryside setting. And I'm very happy to I recommend approval again, like I've done many times this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody else who wishes to speak? I'm looking. Is that Claire, I think, first?
I'll second that approval.
You're seconding. Okay, thank you. And Martin is next.
My apologies. I did talk about light pollution, but that's I was saying. The other thing is the remote location. I'd like to report I did visit the site yesterday. It took me 10 minutes to get down the lane following a flock of sheep. So that gives an indication of it really isn't going to impact on anybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Right, we come back. We have found that Councillor Shearer is here online. Are you there, Heather?
I am indeed. Thank you very much. And my apologies. I was just unfortunately I couldn't get into Mendip offices today. Ros and I have both spoken about this. Obviously, we spoke about it last week. We didn't find anything to argue about. I hope Ros had an opportunity to speak to one of the to Jenny, to the officer, the planning officer, and you're absolutely right. There's no light pollution, so I know she was concerned about that. It is a very that's what made me smile. I didn't know whether Ros was actually in the room, and you can't tell when you're away from here whether somebody's in the room or not. You can tell he was online, but we couldn't find anything to really argue about with it. It's a very nice looking proposal, and but of course we'd be happy. I was here to listen to what the planning committee thought about it. But thank you very much, and my apologies for not being in the room.
Yes, thank you very much for taking the time to come, Heather. Thank you. Right, do we have anyone else before we go to a vote? I'm looking. No, nobody wishes to quiet. That's fine. Right, so we've got a recommendation to go with the officer's recommendation. So all those in favour, please.
That's everyone. Unanimous.
Unanimous. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so well done, Kelly. You're finished for the day now. Okay, we're moving on to Brookover Farm, which is on the Froome to Radstock Road at Buckland Dinham. I know what, yeah, you would, I found this, okay. Conversion of a barn and garage to farm and 2 small bedroom dwelling. And Carlton is presenting. Is he online?
So I will complete his presentation for him, which I'm just uploading now. Okay, so this is a planning application for conversion of a barn and garage to form a two-bed dwelling with a small lobby extension. It is in the open countryside, outside of any settlement limit. You can see on this plan here, you've got the access from the A362, and then you've got a complex of buildings that are existing that effectively form the application site adjacent to what I will call the former host house. As you'll see from the report pack, the extension that is now proposed to be used as a self-contained dwelling has already been approved as an extension to the host house. So effectively, this application is different because it proposes to use a form of development which already has approval as an extension to the host house, a separate residential accommodation. You'll see from the report pack that we're recommending it for approval as a departure from the development plan. And again, that's because it's outside of a settlement boundary. You'll also see that we have referred to paragraph 80 of the NPPF because one of the provisions that the NPPF advises you can approve the use of housing in the open countryside is under paragraph subsection D, which says the development would involve the subdivision of an existing residential building. So again, as you can see, we're lending weight to that provision because effectively what we've got here is the subdivision of one existing residential dwelling into two existing residential dwellings. But more importantly, even under the paragraph 11 assessment, we haven't identified any harm. So I'll just now go through the plans with some photographs so that you can understand what is proposed. So this is obviously the former host house. And then this area here is the attached barn, and then a series of outshot buildings with a fairly visually unattractive 1970s garage here at the front where I'm moving the cursor. Again, in plan form, so this is what's proposed, or what's existing. So we've got the barn, we've got the water tank, outshot garage. This effectively is shown on the plan as existing because this is the extension that was approved under the application for the extension to the dwelling house. So again, in terms of what we've got at the moment, it's quite difficult to read the plan. So this is the garage, this is the outshot, and then this is the barn. So again, if we go back to that the plan that I've just showed you would be a plan if you were looking eastwards towards the side elevation of what would have been the host house. So what we've got proposed is effectively a two-bed unit with a bathroom, sitting room, and ancillary circulation space with a loft office at the upper floor level. You'll see there's no roof lights, just some small dormer extensions at the rear. Oh, sorry, there are roof lights. These are roof lights. So again, the view from the back, that's how you would see the new building from the view to the back. And then again, the view from the front, effectively the converted garage, and then linking back round to the principal accommodation area. Looking at its side on, effectively the garage, the link unit, and then the barn to be converted. And again, just correcting myself earlier on, there are roof lights to the rear to deliver the upper floor unit. So again, just in case it hasn't been clear, we've got the stable, we've got the link building, and we've got the converted garage. In terms of the photographs, that's the garage. This is the series of link buildings running through, and then this is the barn at the rear, which is now to be used as a separate unit of accommodation and not as an extension to the existing residential property. That's all Carlton's prepared for me to show you, Chair. Obviously, the report pack confirms that we're recommending approval. If there are any questions, I will try and answer them for you.
Thank you very much, Simon. I think we know a little bit about this one. Okay, so we have no public speakers, but we have the applicant. We have Natalie Reevy, is it? Yeah, thank you. If you'd like to.
Try and keep this as quick as possible. Appreciate it's been a really long day. Good afternoon, councillors. My name is Natalie Reevy. I'm the applicant. My planning agent, Lee Wright, apologises for his absence because he's on holiday. He's asked me to convey to you that while this application is before the planning committee due to a departure from the local plan, this is because the national planning policy framework update that permits this type of development came in at a later date than the publication of the local plan. So simply this proposal is compliant with national planning policy paragraph 80D, with this being confirmed in the planning officer recommendation before you. The project will be a self-build project for my partner, myself and our child to live in as our family home. It will enable us to finally have an affordable home after over 2 decades renting, 7 years on the self-build register, and a lifelong dream to self-build and use our craftsmanship, skills and passion for sustainability to create our own house finally. In preparing the application, we've taken great care to ensure aesthetically the design harmonises with the area, that the resultant dwelling is as energy efficient as possible, using sustainable local materials when possible and renewable energy systems, including air source heat pump, and that planning policy has been adhered to. We believe this is to be reflected in the planning officer recommendation before you that confirms there are no objections from neighbours or members of the public, no objection from the parish council, no objection from any statutory consultee, and no objections to the advertisement for a departure from the local plan. Further, the application benefits written support from 5 people, and we have worked closely with the council throughout to achieve the officer recommendation for approval before you, which confirms there to be no identified harm from this proposed development. On a personal note, I would like to reiterate what this home means to us. It allows us to finally get off the rental roller coaster and create a stable, sustainable home for life, to put our roots down once and for all, and in the future to redirect our energy for the good of the town and community. It has been made possible by the philanthropic vision and generosity of the landowner after our many years' effort working towards the goal of affordable self-build plots ultimately were not successful. Given there is no objection and only support for our application, we hope that you as decision makers can support us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We have no other speakers as such. We'll go to the committee or, yeah. So, Phil, you would like to speak?
Showed a blue line going around it. I wasn't sure what the blue line was.
The blue line normally apologies, the blue line
Simon, can you bring it up on the screen, please?
Okay.
Simon, bring it up on the screen, please, so we can see it.
It was the first one. That one.
Yeah. The blue line would normally annotate other land that is owned by the applicant, the neighbour.
That's what I thought. It's either that or it was the division boundary. Martin might better clear me up, or Dawn might be, or it might be mine.
Again, hopefully, Chairman, this next slide actually shows the scope of the application site. If members are unclear, let me just set it to slideshow. Apologies.
That contains mine.
So the area associated with the dwelling is there outlined in red.
Are you happy with that, Phil? Okay, do we have any more questions? Yep, Martin in the corner.
Thank you. As ward councillor, I'm very happy with this application. It's very good use of existing buildings, and I'd like to propose that we accept the officer's recommendation.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Martin, and seconded by Phil. I didn't realise that was your ward. It goes all the way out there. Yeah.
I go a long way, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay. So, are there any more comments before we go to a vote? Barry, you wish to comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm sure roof lights are going to come up at some stage. On one of the drawings that Simon showed us, there were circles within the squares that you called roof lights. Are they actually sun tunnels or are they roof lights? The applicant might know better than us. They are roof lights. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Helen, you were holding to the last. Okay.
Do we have
Martin.
to? Oh, sorry.
All right, we'll let Claire go first then.
Very minor technical point. I'll let you all feel worried. It says Mendip South Division at the bottom, and it's not Mendip South. Don't want that to go down in history as Mendip South, just in case there's a further along the line there's some kind of complication.
Thank you, Claire. Right. Now we'll go to Helen.
Just as the applicant is here and as it is such a sort of good eco design, I am a bit concerned about the roof lights, and I wonder if you can just make sure that there's blinds, or that you make sure that when you're working in there at night that they're covered over and then you don't have light spill going up. And I'm sure you will, given everything else that you've done to make it a good eco design. Right, thank you.
Right, thank you, Helen. Tony, did I see you wanting to speak, or is that my imagination? You don't want to speak? No? So there's nobody else who wishes to speak. We will go to the vote. So, all those in favour?
Unanimous?
Unanimous. Okay, so that is passed unanimously. And I believe coming to the end. Yeah. So I think I can actually call the end of the meeting. Done amazingly well.
Sorry, can I just check? Do we have a proposer and a seconder for that last one?
Yeah.
We did. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
That was all done.
So Debbie, can you stop the live feed, please?